tell something about the speaker, and then we can be ready to go ahead with the complete setup and the session.
Thank you so much, Sandeep sir. And it's wonderful to sharing once again with this platform, Series 5, no doubt. The dignitaries are here. Neha ma'am to be a key speaker. She's an IS. She had done her MBA from IIM Lucknow, got placed in Deloitte US, India office through campus placement, which took her to its Hyderabad and Gurgaon office. Just as she was to go to a project to Phoenix and Arizona. She had got selected in IS with an all India ranking 22, landing her in Uttar Pradesh cadre. Belonging to 2012 batch of an IS, currently as a special secretary, IT and electronics with additional charge of MD UPSE SCO and MD Streetron. She is deeply inclined towards the academics and derive its pleasure, ma'am, for reading and creative writing. Ma'am, here's to welcome you with full-heartedly with the entire team from Infotech over here. Ma'am, over mic to you. Please start the session. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Veena, for the introduction. Thank you, Dr. Sandeep. And a very good afternoon to all the viewers. It's great to be here. And this webinar, this topic is very interesting, cybercrime in the current scenario. And what are the safeguards which we should follow to stop cybercrime? So first, I will talk briefly about cybercrime. And then I will talk about cybercrime from the perspective of e-governance, like what are the activities which we are doing in the government setup. And then finally, I will touch upon some of the recent trends in cybercrime. So most of us, we associate cybercrime only with hacking. So it is very important for us to understand that cybercrime is not limited only to hacking, but the scope of cybercrime is very wide and it includes a variety of cyber attacks. Okay, so I was telling about the wide range of cyber attacks which we face. So cyber attacks can range from malware, maladvertising, then there are man-in-the-middle attacks. Man-in-the-middle attacks means that there is a person who is handling the transactions on your behalf with an agent. Then there can be rogue softwares. There is the distributed denial of service attacks, in which you heavily load a network with traffic so that the server is not able to perform properly. Then you have drive-by download attacks. Drive-by download attacks means that you just surf the net and you download some software or something from the net without knowing what the actual purpose of that software is. So there are also phishing attacks, password attacks. So cybercrime is not only hacking, but there are a variety of cyber attack types. And even if we talk about hacking, hackers are just they just work on this idea of creative problem solving, using the properties of computers and networks in an unexpected way. So because we have the advantage of the ease of connectivity with other people through our systems, there are bound to be some vulnerabilities in the interconnected system, and hackers take advantage of these vulnerabilities. Many hackers might work for money, or they might be driven by the desire to hurt others for cheap thrills, but there are some hackers who work in the gray area also. So they are in the morally gray area because they can work to expose corruption, or they can work on things which compromises an individual privacy for national security. So there is a range of from the black to the white. So hackers cannot be entirely seen in a negative light. And for cybercrime, I will share some important statistics with you so that we can realize the sheer scale of cyber attacks. Do you know that daily all over the world, 24,000 mobile applications are blocked? And lifestyle applications are the most malicious of the mobile applications. Almost 1 in every 36 mobile phones have been found to contain a highly malicious application. And these applications, they not only leak your phone number, but they also have the capability to leak sensitive information like your location and other information which is stored on your phone. So, and more than 60% of these frauds originate from mobile phones, and out of them, 80% originate from the mobile applications. Emails are also a common way for cyber criminals to attack their victims. Microsoft Office file extensions are the most commonly used file extensions for cyber attacks. If you see an email containing a .doc or a .xls file extension, most users would associate with Microsoft. And Microsoft, being a very reputable company, means that people are more likely to open that attachment. Ransomware attacks have also become very common. They have become the new business model for cybercrime. And the healthcare industry gets affected by ransomware attacks the most. Recently, I was reading an article in the Economic Times, and they shared some of the data about ransomware attacks on the Indian firms. And among the Indian firms, it said that 8 crore rupees is the average amount which Indian firms spend to mitigate the effects of malware. And the most number of firms which are affected are in Delhi. So 83% of all the firms which are attacked, they are in Delhi, followed by Bangalore and Calcutta. And many of these firms, they have agreed that they pay money to the ransomware, to the person who is originating the ransomware attacks to protect their system. So all of this this cyber crime has a great potential of harming the economy and harming the business. And it is also estimated that by 2021, cybercrime will cost over $6 trillion annually. And this figure was $3 trillion in 2015. Do you know how much your personal data sells for in the dark web? Your personal data costs as less as 20 cents, and it can range to $15 depending on the resale value of that data and the information which the criminal can derive from that data. So also there's the statistics about stolen passwords. So 300 billion passwords would have been stolen by the end of this year. And hackers are attacking at an average of every 39 seconds, which makes it to 244 times a day. So there was this study which was done by University of Maryland Clark School, where they set up some 10 Linux systems with very weak security, and then they measured the rate of the cyber attack. So they found that in this study, they found that cyber criminals are attacking at the rate of every 39 seconds. And they used brute force dictionary scripts for these attacks, where they could guess the most commonly named username and password. So many of us, we keep the username as a guest or admin, which is very easy to guess. So the brute dictionary scripts, they use this username and then they guess the password where they put the password as user. So that is why this study also tells us that we should keep a very complex password, which is not easy for these scripts to guess. Talking about cyber security, it is very important to mention the CIA triad, which stands for confidentiality, integrity, and availability. So confidentiality means that all the information and the functions, they can be accessed only by authorized users. The integrity means that the information and functions can be data in these can be added, deleted, or modified only by authorized entities, authorized parties. And availability means that the system function and the data must be available on demand according to agreed upon parameters based on levels of service. Now, talking about cyber security, it is very important to understand e-governance and the characteristics of e-governance, which makes it very vulnerable for cyber attacks. So e-governance is basically, you can define e-governance as the delivery of public services and public information over electronic media, particularly the internet and the web. And it is the most useful public sector innovation which digitizes transactions not only between the government and the citizens, but also between government and the businesses, between government to government, government and employees, and government to other constituents of democracy. E-governance benefits a lot of stakeholders through transparency, fairness, accuracy, efficiency, efficacy, and reduced human intervention and reduced discretion, because when people are involved, a system is more likely to be corrupted. So e-governance has benefited a lot in exposing corruption. There are four pillars of e-governance, which are connectivity, knowledge, data, content, and the capital. Now, e-governance systems are accessed by people over open networks. So there are a lot of exposure points to gain access into the e-government IP because the services are delivered by not many people over open systems. There is a lot of ease of access for the e-governance applications and the e-governance websites. Also, we have to understand that there is a difference in the accessibility between the level of information and data sharing between the departments and from a department to the public. To protect e-governance projects, there is a need for information security best practices. Security policies, practices, and procedures must be in place, as well as utilization of security tools, which help to protect e-governance systems against attack, detect abnormal activities and services. Fundamental factors are to have a proper public key infrastructure, providing the required level of authentication and integrity, and also to have a continuous awareness and training program to ensure that people understand security threats. If it is important to be secure, then it is also important to be sure. All the security policy is enforced by mechanisms which are very strong. There are organized methodologies and risk assessment strategies to assure completeness of security policies and assure that they are completely enforced. So I will talk about some steps which are related to UP government. And we have a policy that we do a security audit of all the government websites and applications before hosting and publishing. It is mandatory for this security audit to happen. And all government websites have to follow the GIGW guidelines, which stand for the Guidelines for Indian Government Websites. These guidelines have been framed with an objective to make the Indian government websites conform to the essential prerequisites of the U trilogy. This triple U stands for usable, user-centric, and universally accessible. They also form the basis for obtaining website quality certification from STQC, which stands for Standardization Testing Quality Certification, which is an organization of the Department of Information Technology, Government of India. We also have a very highly secure Tier 3 data center with ISO 27001 and ISO 20000 certification. And this was established by the IT and Electronics Department and is operational for the various line departments of Government of Uttar Pradesh. This data center has an uptime of 99.74%, and it is in line with the international best practices. So about 250 applications of 61 departments are currently hosted in the state data center. There is a UTM firewall, which stands for Unified Threat Management Firewall, which prevents and blocks all the malicious hits from various unknown sources. Just to share an example of the volume of malicious hits which we receive at the state data center, from February 2020 till date, we have received about 86.2 crore malicious hits from unknown sources at the UTM firewall of our data center. And these hits originate from a lot of countries. And I was going through the list of countries which we have blocked, and there were countries like Island Islands, Aruba, Belize. So from many countries we receive these malicious hits, and that is why firewall is very important in a public interconnected network system. So, talking about some of the recent trends in cybersecurity, we are living in the times of the corona virus, and this is a very unprecedented thing, and no one knows how to tackle it, and we are also evolving and learning on a daily basis. So in the corona time, cyber criminals have also involved. They are finding new methods and new methodologies, new tactics to target people. So there is a evolution of threat actors who are taking advantage of the pandemic situation to trick the users into giving up their sensitive information by taking advantage of their interest and the curiosity associated with the novel coronavirus activities. Phishing attempts centered around COVID-19 and Arogya Setu app is on the rise, according to an anti-phishing tech company called Human Firewall. As work from home is becoming mandatory, scammers impersonate the HR personnel or the CEO or any other known person, and they target users by spreading messages as, I will share some of the common messages, like they'll share a message, your neighbor is affected, or see who all are affected, or someone who came in contact with you tested positive, recommendations to self isolate. So now, because people are so curious about these things, so they make it makes it very vulnerable for them to open these email attachments and to click on the links provided by these cyber criminals. And there are cases of phishing which is centered on impersonating even the WHO. There are a lot of phishing websites around COVID-19 and Corona. New phishing domains have been created around subjects like relief package, Corona testing kits, safety tips during Corona, Corona vaccine, payment and donation during Corona. Threat actors trick users through phishing emails and messages based on the above subjects. Also, threat actors impersonate popular apps like Zoom, Google Meet using fake domains. Recently, we have received an advisory from the MHA related to cyber attacks on Android based smartphones and devices of Indian officials, where a user receives a message through SMS or WhatsApp on their Android devices. And this message is titled arogyasetu.apk. Yeah, now when if a person instead of they just download this thing, instead of the Arogya Setu app, there's a malicious app called ChatMe which downloads on the device. And while downloading, it will ask only for limited permission, but when it downloads onto the mobile phone, it can access everything on the mobile phone. So this makes it very important that we download the Arogya Setu app only from the Google Play Store or the Android Apple Store. This goes for any other application. We have to download all these applications only from trusted sources. Also, while surfing, we have to be very sure that we are on the correct website and we are not handing out our personal information unknowingly or unwittingly on any website. Now, there's also this trend of cyber attacking emerging cities, small cities, and also the small and medium businesses and web connected devices, which we most commonly refer to as the Internet of Things. So, smart home attacks, they are very common in the USA, US, and Japan, where we have these smart homes where everything is connected by internet. But because the data sharing between these devices happen over open networks, that makes it very vulnerable. There's also the evolving concept of hacktivism. So these are cyber protests that are socially or politically motivated. So hacktivists, they hack the sites and servers to virally communicate some message for a specific campaign. Now, we all have heard and we all know what phishing is. Now, these are the times of smishing, where phishing happens through SMS. And there is a term called wishing, which means that phishing which is happening through WhatsApp. Also, deceptive communication is being used for spear phishing, which is a targeted attack. Now, we all are seeing the evolution of botnets. So, the botnets are a group of compromised computers which are controlled by an autonomous software, robots, which answers to a hacker and who manipulates all these computers remotely. Botnets can act to perpetrate fraud or identify theft, disrupt other networks, and damage computer files, among other things. Also, there's this distributed denial of service attacks, which is an attempt to crash a web server or online system by overwhelming it with data. So, terabytes of data traffic is being sent per second. You can imagine it something similar to 20 people ordering pizza, 50 pizzas simultaneously from a pizza store. So it is but natural that the store will not be able to cater to this request. And it is this concept which goes for this distributed denial of service attacks. So some of the steps or some of the things which we can do to stop cybercrime is first we should move to a more community-based cyber security exercises which test the security issues across the entire system. Also, artificial intelligence and machine learning can boost cyber defenses. We also have to be very sure that we update our systems regularly and we download all the patches, and all of these things, they strengthen the real-time defense. For our passwords, we have to be very sure that we have to keep a different password for every different website. We should not keep a common password, because if someone can guess that common password, he'll have access to all your things, all your personal information. And the password has to be very complex, because as I already told, there are dictionary scripts. So these scripts can automatically, they use a large range of combinations to detect, to guess your password. So these are some of the things which we can do at a personal level. And also, talking about cyber security, we have to be very sure that the hardware is secure, because the hardware is at the base on which the software operates. So most of the equipment and the technology which we are using currently for setting up cyber security infrastructure in India are currently being procured from global sources, which makes it very vulnerable to cyber threats, just like any other connected system. Also, there is the possibility of manufacturing backdoors embedded in RFID chips and memories. There can be unauthorized access of protected memory, insertion of hidden methods, hardware tampering, and inclusion of false. So, I already told about the things which we can do at a personal level for to keep ourselves safe and secure in this interconnected world of internet. And all these steps will go a long way in keeping you safe while being connected. So I'll end by saying that stay safe, stay secure, and stay sure. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. It's like wonderful listening you. You have told us about a lot of things, how to be secure and how to be safe. And ultimately what is our mantra and Infotech is always be always cyber hygiene and maintain the cyber hygiene so that you cannot blame to anybody else. Like you must have to be aware about. Ma'am, there are a couple of questions. Can we take it?
Yeah, sure.
Ma'am, one question had come to us that is, I think it's in Facebook. The question is, what are the basic tricks to avoid ATM phishing in ATM center?
Okay, so these basic tricks are already being shared by your concerned bank, and you just have to go to their website and see their communication, what your bank is telling you. And the first and most important thing is ATM PIN is your password. So just like any other password, you have to keep your ATM PIN very secure, and don't you have to change it for the first time, and don't keep it as a very common pin for anyone to guess, like if you make it a serial number pin 1 2 3 4 5, so that you should not do that. And also don't share your card with anyone. And nowadays we are also seeing this contactless cards. So I read this somewhere that this contactless card, you don't have to stick it to the machine. So if you are keeping the card somewhere in your pocket, the cyber criminals or other kinds of fraudsters, they can skim your card from a distance also. So you have to keep your all these cards, credit cards, debit cards, ATM cards in a RFID secure wallet. So this is a new thing which not many of us know about. So first keep your card secure, and then keep a complex ATM pin. Don't share your pin with anyone. And when you do online shopping or any kind of online purchase on an e-commerce site, make sure that you are doing it from a reputable or a trusted site. Don't store your ATM pin on some website. For example, if you paid something for a product, and if that website asks you, do you want to save your debit card number for further purchase, don't save it there, because then your data is saved somewhere, and there are so many data breaches happening. So yeah, these are some of the basic things which you can do to keep your card safe.
While when we're talking about the ATM and its password, it has always come like Mr. Abhishek Singh has asked them question that are the password managers really reliable?
By password managers, are you referring to people in the bank? Because if that is the case, then banks have a well-defined system for cyber security, and most of the banks in India, they follow well-defined guidelines. So I and even the bank people, they don't have access as such to your password, because even when they store it in some kind of encrypted format. And if the I think the person who has asked the question, if they are concerned whether your first time password is available with the bank, then you always have this option of changing your password when you receive it for the first time. So you can keep changing your password regularly. And yeah,
Ma'am,
yeah.
sometimes it happens that while changing a password, it is very tough, like you have to do some kind of process. So is it any some like easy way to change your password by yourself immediately?
Yeah, because there are a lot of easy ways. These days, you can change your password by going on that website, and you can create your own password by creating a combination or a special mix of characters, numbers, and alphabets. So I don't think so. Changing password in itself is very difficult or tough, and these are some of the steps which you're doing for your own security. So think of it as an investment of time, some amount of time which you are giving to keep yourself secure. And nowadays passwords can be changed over the internet or through the applications which you can download on your mobile. So many of these banking applications are available, like Yono from SBI. So you download it on your mobile, and from there, anytime, anywhere, you can change your password.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you. Ma'am, one more question Mr. Abhishek had asked once again, that in case of social media accounts, not about the banking system, uh, what kind of security like we have to be in consider?
So, social media, you have to be very, not talking specifically about passwords, but in general, you have to be very careful about what you are posting on social media, because all that all that data which you post is available on the internet, and it stays there, and over an interconnected system. People other than those for whom you have sent the message can access your data. For example, if you are sharing your photograph, it's not only the photograph you are sharing. If there's a very high tech cyber criminal, he can extract your location from your photograph. So first thing is that you have to be very sure that you should not share everything which is available for public viewing for everyone, because your data can be accessed by your future employer or by other person whom you meet in future, and they can already have a particular opinion about you. So, and all these there's this thing where people share their kids photos on the
Yes.
internet and Facebook. So even you should not share very personal or very private things, because you don't know what kind of cyber criminals are lurking there in the internet, and they can see your kid and they know which school your kid goes to. So for to make your kid very to keep your kid in a safe environment, you should not share his picture. And
Exactly.
yeah.
Ma'am, one like regularly people ask that like one Sanjay Kumar ji had asked a question. He's also joined us in our Zoom platform. Now he'd asked that they, without a secretary reason, he have always tried to log in passwords, 4 5 digits maybe, and each time or a few days he forget his password. So he just wanted to have some tips how he can remember the password and be secure also. Two reasons, ma'am, you have to tell.
Okay, so if I tell you a trick, then this is also open to everyone, and the person who can try to guess your password will know it. But like one of the thing which I do, if it's very difficult for me to remember, I just reverse it. So for first time, if I make a password as if my name is there, NEHA and some numbers, then the next time I change it and I just reverse it. So in totality, I just have to remember two passwords, the first one and the reversed one. But even this is not a very good thing, because even this can be guessed by anyone.
Yeah.
So you have to do that basic level of investment in creating a complex password and changing it. So maybe you can do something like a serial number increase in the numbers of your password. That way you can remember, or some character in your password which relates to the current month or the current year. So based on things which are very personal to you, you can embed these personal security directly into your password.
Thank you so much, ma'am. It's nice, wonderful, like tips and everything you have told us and share the awareness through your definitely view words.
Neha ma'am, for being with us and sharing such an amazing information altogether, with lots of statistics and real-time data which you have shared, which is very hard to find by a normal person who doesn't know. And mostly there are so many doubts, or I can say myths, which were there in the people's mind, which you have cleared over here. So thank you very much for sparing up time and come with us online on this platform so that we can share our viewers about the different details. Thank you very much,
Thank you.
ma'am.